You say 10:30, you don't mess around.
Oh, you know me, and you're A-list, buddy, so I can't be late. How you doing, Milty? Great having you on the show. This is fantastic.
Great, Mikey. David, how are you?
Good, buddy. Thanks for doing this with us today.
No problem.
You know,
why don't you thank me afterwards just to see how you like it?
Hey, and Milty, you can drop bombs on this show. So if there's someone you want to call out, you can do it here.
All the bombs? I can drop all the bombs?
You got to unload. You got 30 years of frustration or whatever it is. You can let it go on this show. We just heard
30. Holy smokes.
We just heard a clip of Johnny Manziel, and he certainly said all the right things. And his perspective is good. And let me go as far as to say, and I think you've known me for quite a while, I don't enjoy the busts. I don't enjoy failure. I really do like a story where there is a happy ending. You know, and I think, you know, being a CFL fan for my entire life, the fact that I could watch shows on ESPN, see Chris Carter, see Shannon Sharp and another one, talking the way that they do about the CFL, for me, I almost was taken aback. And I think if I'm looking at the entire picture, more than just a Ticat fan, I would like to see success, but that all means things like understanding the extra man, the bigger field, and, of course, reading the defense. So before you start comparing him to Doug Flutie, you might want him to take a couple snaps first. So I'll go back to the moment that they do sign Johnny Manziel. What was your feeling from the beginning about this?
Well, I didn't know that it was going to happen. At first I wondered about their interest, guys. When it went back a few months, I kind of wondered why they were interested in. Now, of course, when they first got interested, and he's been on their negotiation list for some time, but when we first found out about it, they were about 0-8 at the time, right? And June Jones was just about to become the coach here, but you kind of wondered when they had such a nice turnaround at the end of the year at 6-4. Everything seemed like we were in Happy Valley again. Why they wanted to introduce that to it, but I think it was a matter of them trying to just get better. Maybe he becomes something. And also he's an asset, so you don't let him go off your negotiation list. So that's the way I thought they were maybe looking at it, as a guy that they could trade the asset. But they're pretty serious about developing into something. Where that leaves the incumbent, I don't know. But when it happened on Saturday, and I happened to be at my one day at the Cottage because I didn't actually start covering the team again until Sunday, I have to say I was a bit stunned that it actually happened. I mean, I knew that they were much more interested than I ever gave them, and sort of validly interested. I just kind of wondered why you needed the trouble, but it may not turn out to be like you were talking about there, Mike. It may not turn out to be that kind of trouble because they're trying to make it a positive thing, and I don't think he's just saying the right things. We all got a kind of a big fat bullshit detector in our business, right? And I was prepared for that, and he kind of took me aback because a lot of the terminology he used on Sunday, not as much on Saturday, but on Sunday, were things that you would have had to really go through that process, that thinking process, for want of a better word, and I don't think this is a fair word necessarily, but rehab process. And I've understood what it is you're actually going through. And remember, he's done this twice. Once in connection with the charges he had in 2016, and once in connection with Randy Ambrosie's rules. What you talked about, hoping to see a good story, which means a good ending. That's what the Ticat CEO, Scott Mitchell, talked to me about yesterday. He said that's what he's feeling from people. He may not be hearing from people who are against it. I mean, there are going to be obviously social activist groups who, rightly so, wonder about this, and the questions have come up in Scrum. Johnny has been very, very direct about it. I think I didn't hear what clips you guys played, but the one that really stuck with all of us is, "I will never outrun my past."
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I don't know, is that the one you played?
Yes.
And that one was pretty staggering. And I realize that's a bit of a catchphrase, but as I say, that my nose didn't twitch. It didn't feel like it was written by a PR guy, because it sort of he was talking about things. The team was trying to say, we're only going to talk about football. Remember that this is a CFL ruling. It's not a TICAT ruling that he could come here. It was a CFL ruling, and all of the he's still under a short leash, a CFL short leash. He's still. They don't say what all of the conditions are that he has to meet, but they've made that pretty clear that conditions that he had to meet to get to the point to be approved to be signed still have to be met and are being reviewed all the time. So, yeah, I mean, I think people want that. It's a league of second chances. And if, in fact, he can, I mean, it's going to be a hell of a story if he does something, right? Yeah. Now, let's not ever write off who the incumbent is here right now. Jeremiah Masoli had an unbelievable final 10 games. He's cut out for the offense that June Jones runs, but June really, 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 really likes Johnny's skill set. But you're right. They got to read the things. And I know I'm going on here, but maybe I could tell you something that Johnny mentioned about what he found the hardest part. The quarterback coach, who's been with June Jones a long time, Dan Morrison, he's glued to, or so I should say, Johnny's glued to him. That's basically Dan Morrison's job right now. I'm seeing they're standing together again right now, as watching team play. And they're analyzing every play. See what this right guy did here, see what this receiver did there. This is why they do this. You got to check off this guy. He thought it'd be about the fifth defensive back would be the hardest part, because it changes your checks and all of those kinds of things. Johnny said it was seeing that every single route, what's different in the United States than here is that every single route, remember that on many plays, there's 5 of those, can go 2 or 3 different ways. So your checkdowns are a whole bunch different there. Oh my God, he's going to, inside out, depending where the guys are. And you got to see that right across the field. He said that's going to be the hardest part for him.
Steve, I know the first couple of days of camp, nothing's really, you don't get right into the playbook and you don't start really developing the offense right away. But how has he looked in the first couple of snaps and throwing the ball? I know he's attracting quite the crowd because practice usually doesn't bring out as many people as it is, but not really a surprise that they're starting to pack some people watching this. But how has he looked on the field?
He's looked, I'll tell you, he looks a lot more comfortable today. Today's the first day he ran any team plays, and he only did it 2 or 3 times, right? Remembering where we are in the CFL, this is in the NFL. You only got X amount of time with the players, even in training camp. You got to get your team up to speed. And the Ticats were different than any other team in the CFL this year. They used it because June is coming into his first camp. They used mini camp to institute plays. So they're into a lot of playbook stuff right now and getting ready. So Mazzoli's getting most of the snaps. But Johnny had about 3 or 4 in team play today and 3 or 4 in Skelly. And he looked pretty good. There was it's much more confident. You can see the biggest thing is not just the routes too that I've noticed in these 2 days. It's who the receivers are. So he understands now, holy smokes, that damn Speedy Banks, I see where he gets his nickname. So he hit him in stride. He hit a couple of guys in stride. So it's not just learning the playbook, it's learning who those players are and how fast certain people are, how fast certain people aren't, those kinds of things. So I can really see some comfort level there, David, but they're really going slow. The second half of the teamwork both on Sunday and Monday, basically when you have Skelly, which is 7 against 7, or team, which is the whole team against the whole offense against the defense, he didn't take any snaps in either of the first 2 days. Today he took, I would think, would you say, Ron? I'm sitting with a friend here, about 4 snaps. Would you say 4 snaps he took in team play? Yeah, about that, which isn't much. It's just enough to sort of get, they are really going slow here with him.
We're in conversation with Steve Milton and his friend Ron here on.
Yeah, sorry.
Ron
has a podcast and a website in the United States, so he's one of the Americans who's come up to see him.
And I think we're going to see a lot of that. But You know, the curiosity factor obviously is very, very huge. But the thing that I do like, Milty, is the fact that, you know, sometimes I talk about football DNA, and that is, do you have a similar strand that when you communicate football, you know what each other guy is, you know, talking about. So when I think if it's Jeremiah Masoli, who's obviously still in front of him, it's slotted in as the number one, but also a June Jones, if they have a conversation about football, regardless of it being CFL rules or not, they still have a similar DNA, and that part I like.
Oh yeah, and it's really evident in this case here. It's evident. I mean, look, you don't end up. You've been around this league, both of you, for long enough to know this. You don't end up starting in the CFL unless you've got a football IQ, because it's not just about memorization and rote. Because of the nature of our game, there's a lot of ad-libbing. There's a lot of you can't just say. It goes back to this 2 and 3 options for every receiver on every play in June's offense. That takes a football IQ/DNA. You're 100% right. I think you can talk this game. I think you can talk the Canadian game a lot more than you can talk the American game, because there's such a variety to it. The depth of it. Not that the NFL or college football in the United States doesn't, but it's fairly prescribed, right? And normally when there's something big that happens in the U.S., it really does become a big deal. But like a new adjustment, like let's say when the West Coast offense came in, when back in the Oklahoma I, all of those things, they were really, really big things. Well, up here, that's just one of many, many things we've had to do, because there's so many options that people have done. So I think it's much more discussable if you're a football person. If you're just a fan, I think the NFL might be a little bit better to watch that way, because it's more understandable. The CFL, there's a lot of things you have to be kind of, as you guys mentioned, DNA type to understand. I know I'm selling our game more than and it's not that I'm overly nationalistic on this. I find it really interesting to watch.
Yeah, it certainly is. Steve, one final question for me. So you got Johnny Manziel out there. June Jones is a well-known American coach on the defensive side, and we had a chance to talk to him about probably about 6 weeks ago, maybe 2 months ago. But our friend Jerry Glanville's running the defense. How has it been as far as talking to that side of the ball and that coach? Because he brings a personality in his own.
It's already cost something. Cost stuff here, and June said it would happen. Jerry likes to play, as you know, a lot of man-to-man, so he's got to put there's a lot of pressure going on. So, you know, there's no tackling involved, and we've already had a couple of set twos because the defense has been too aggressive, and they were aggressive with the quarterback and with Luke Tasker, who's sort of your go-to guy on short yardage, right? He's the conversion guy, and there was both of them got knocked over, and so you can see that. I mean, Jerry, he's 76, but he's not 76.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
You must know that. In fact, I'm surprised you could fit him into a podcast.
Well, okay. There is one thing that I said to him that stopped him talking, and that doesn't happen often. I talked about the track out in Cayuga. He said, you got racing here? You all got racing here?
Yeah.
He stopped for a second and then continued on.
Well, he's gonna like the dirt tracks here too.
Yeah.
We got a dirt track over at Oswego on Six Nations, and they draw 6,000-7,000 every night on the Friday nights, and it's a classic dirt track.
Well, don't tell him
Friday like that. And I've been a NASCAR guy. I've done a couple of NASCAR books over the years, so I haven't really had that talk with him yet, but I'm really looking forward to that. So he's an interesting guy. And there's a lot of stories here, but one of the problems is we got to cut through the stories and get to the meat of the matter that we're dealing with at the moment.
Okay, well, let's, Milton, before I let you go, something that I have.
Yeah, sure. I'm good right now.
Yeah, something that I haven't asked, and that is, if you're Jeremiah Masoli, and I've never spoken with the guy, so I don't know the makeup. I don't know the mindset. But if it's me, and I played damn well down that stretch, and as I've said on this podcast already today, that I don't think if the Ticats got into that, if they got into the playoffs last year, I think they were a team that you probably didn't want to play. He was on that kind of role.
Yeah,
so now comes Johnny Manziel, and I'm just wondering, how does he take it in stride? Does he feel like his days are numbered, or does he feel like he's going to fight, he's the starter, and he's going to remain the starter?
He feels he's going to fight and be the starter and remain the starter. And June's saying all the right things about that. In fact, I just watched. That's right. Johnny just came over to shake. He's doing it right now. He's shaking Mazzoli's hand because we just ended this first half of the practice. And remembering, if Johnny does really, really well, he's here 2 years, right? So Mazzoli would know that at heart, but that's not the main thing. The main thing is Mazzoli, and Drew Edwards, our beat writer, pointed this out to me. He said, he's been going through this all his life. Remember, he was a number 2 guy here at one point, then he fell down to number 4, stayed out every day after practice, every single day when he was number 4, and worked his way back. But so by the end of the year, he was number 1 when Zach was hurt. Loses that again to Zach Collaros when for the first games last year, and then gets this again. This is nothing new. It's almost part of his, to bring up the 3 letters again. Yeah. It's almost part of his DNA. This whole thing, right? Of always having to prove himself, and so I think he sees this as another challenge that way, and he knows.
Well, I would say that
he won't say this, but he knows too that he's going to do okay in this league no matter what, and he's probably going to be around this league a lot longer than Johnny Manziel.
Well,
one way or the other. Either Johnny's not going to do it, or he's going to do it well enough he gets a chance down south.
I am definitely looking forward to this year. I happen to believe that the teams look a little stronger. Zach Collaros, I think, is going to have a good year in Saskatchewan.
I think right.
I think the only team right now I'm scratching my head is the Montreal Alouettes, but screw them. They've been so good for so long. I don't care.
Yeah, but
let's
worry. Let's collectively worry about ownership in our sort of bookend teams, the East-West teams, Montreal and BC. That's a little worrisome for me because the league has been really well owned the last little while, and that's the big thing. Sometimes it doesn't matter as much as how the teams are doing within that. It's how are they owned and what's the future of the franchise that we're in. And I worry a little bit about both because Montreal, if they start poorly, well, I think we all need as a league to hope that they do okay, at least that they're entertaining. Yeah. You know, we can't have them going down to 10, 12,000 people a night.
No.
Luckily for them, the Impact stinks right now.
Yeah. Well, we're going to show a clip from the Impact that's not very impressive anyway. So, hey, look, Milty, thanks so much for joining us. It's been a while. Hopefully, I'll see you over the summer because I'm definitely going to be at some games. But I think that's a sentence you're going to hear from a lot of people. Well, I'm at least going to check out a game, and you know what? By that standard, that's not bad.
Really, we're ready for this, and you know. If Johnny does well in the exhibition games when he gets a chance, then, you know, look out. We're going to have an awful lot of American media up here. Yeah. A lot.
I agree. Hey, Milty, thanks so much. You take care, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, David. Bye to you, too.
That is Steve Milton joining us here today.
What? Did we just become best friends? Yep.